Hello, have a good day to all of you. My name is Wawa Mazlela binti Janson alias Suhailin, and today I would like to talk about the execution of fieldwork and its sitting research site for conservation biology fieldwork. So I will introduce to you the guidelines of conservation biology fieldwork from the planning and preparing for the fieldwork until the execution of the fieldwork and also until the moment you want to exit from the research site. Firstly, for the students and researchers of conservation biology discipline, you need to bear in mind what makes the fieldwork in our discipline different from others. It is that we need to apply the best practice and ethic in conducting any research. So yeah, here I divided the guidelines into three important parts, which is the first one is before you going to the field, and the second one is during you do your field work, and the last one is when you want to leave the field site. So before conducting your fieldwork, a researcher or a student must have a comprehensive planning and preparation for the fieldwork. It is include the access license if your research need it, and also the plan that you need to follow throughout your research. And then after you done with the planning and preparation thing, you finally can go to the field site. And once you arrive at the site, you must comply with all the rules and regulations that already set by the resource provider. And lastly, when you have done with your research at the site, and when you want to leave the site, you have to consider with some important thing. But about this, I will explain it later. Okay, so in the planning and preparation, the researcher must have a clear objective like what your research want to observe, what your research want to identify, and many more. This is very important because it will help you to decide methodology that you will use in your research. And then methodology also need to consider the research site, such as if you know the geography of the site, you must decide the suitable method for it. Therefore, having a good knowledge about your research will also help you very much in your research. Then, with a clear objectives and methods, the students will be able to plan their research accordingly. Let's say the methodology requires you to do a resource sampling at a particular site. So, the researcher must first have the permission from the resource provider. That will be very important to let you enter the site and conduct your research. And then, if the research site is located in Sabah and it involves extraction of biological resources or associated related knowledge, the researcher must apply for an access license from the Sabah Biodiversity Center (SABC) and include the supporting permission that you get from the resource provider as a supporting document when you go apply the access license. So next, when you arrive at the research site after done with all the preparation thing, you can now conduct your fieldwork based on the methodology of the research. Then once you arrive at the site, you must follow all the rules and regulations that set by the resource provider. So here are the do's and don'ts that you need to follow at the research site. The thing that you need to follow is enter the field with permit, and then enter the field with a proper gear, tools, and also equipment, and then extract and collect biological resources related only to your research. Also, you must carefully do the sampling to minimize any disruption on the landscape or organism. And lastly, you must to ensure that the site is always clean and there are no garbage or or rubbish at the site. And yes, this is the don'ts that you must to obey at the research. For example, you cannot enter the site without permit, and you also need to avoid of causing any facilities or vegetation damage in the field. So here is the example. Let's say you want to conduct a research at Shalom Valley Park in Anam, Sabah. Uh, that is mean that this park will be your resource provider because they will provide you the resources that you need for your research. So you have your clear objectives and the complementary methodology set for your research. So here you see your objective, which is the first one. You want to measure water quality parameters in three different aquatic habitats, which is the river, pool, and also run. And then you also want to analyze the total suspended solids of water samples, and lastly and also identify the aquatic invertebrate. And next, you need to decide your method. So here you decide to do a systematic sampling for three different habitats, which is the river, run, and also pool. Then you want to do in situ measurement. Lastly, you want to conduct a sample collection, which is the water sample and also the aquatic invertebrate. So, before you go to this park, you need to make sure that you already have the agreement with the park and make them know that you want to enter this park and then do sample collection. Besides, you must already have your access license from the Sabah Biodiversity Center. So next, after doing all the sampling, you obtain your samples and measurement. Now you already can exit from the fieldwork site. However, before leave, you must check these three important conditions, which is the first one is the condition of the place after sampling. You must make sure that the site is clean and there is only minimal disruption. And the second condition that you need to check is the condition of the specimen or sample. Make sure it is well packed for correction and analysis in the lab soon, and make sure that all the sample and specimen have label with the location, the collector's name, and many more. For example, you get the specimen of aquatic invertebrate, so you need to make sure that all the label on the specimen is there. And the third and last condition that you need to check is the condition of the tools and equipment after research. You need to make sure that all the tools are in a good condition and also clean. And also, if you borrow the tools or equipment, you need to return it. And lastly, if there is any damage on the tools or equipment, you must record and report it. So to conclude for conservation biology fieldwork, we need to know and remember that in conducting any research, we must apply the best practices and ethics. And then we also need to plan and prepare well, like we need to prepare our schedule and also get your access license. And the third one, we need to comply to the do's and don'ts that already set by the resource provider. And the last one that we need to remember, we need to check the three important conditions when leaving the research site. So that's all from me. Thank you very much.